Thank you. No, so I was discussing that what are the things I've already discussed last time. That is, we had discussed about the non-uniform quantization. We have seen that to maintain the signal to noise ratio, we prefer to go for the non-uniform quantization because it is having the constant signal to noise ratio. And to get the constant signal to noise ratio, we actually compress the signals at the lower amplitude level, and we expand the signals at the higher amplitude levels. That is, we take the non-uniform quantization steps. We take the non-uniform quantization steps, and then we see. We already saw in the last class by the using of ALA compounding and MULA compounding, we can actually do that process. Then we have calculated the transmission bandwidth of the PCM, where we have obtained and where we have seen that the transmission bandwidth of the PCM is directly proportional to the number of bits required to represent each level, and the maximum frequency of that modulating signal. This actually improves a lot of transmission bandwidth of the PCM. Then we have calculated the quantization noise. As I told you, the quantization error is the difference between the output of the quantizer to that of the sample input signal, what is given to the quantizer. And we have seen that if we assume that this delta is very small, then the probability distribution of this quantization error is uniformly distributed over the interval of minus delta by 2 by 2. Then the mean square value of that quantization error is nothing but the quantization price, which we can calculate as epsilon square f epsilon dl epsilon. And just by taking this integrations, that integration over minus infinite square 1 upon delta t epsilon, we got this value delta square by 12. So this expression you should remember. As since we know that delta is twice MP, MP is the maximum dynamic range. You can say the maximum amplitude of the information signal. And L is the total number of quantization steps, which is given as 2 to the power m. This m is the total number of bits required to represent each quantization level, whereas the L is the total number of quantization steps. That we can calculate by taking the total power m, because this L is nothing but primary range. So this is how we have calculated the quantization noise. Now, in the today's lectures, we are going to derive the expression of signal to quantization ratio noise, and the derivation of this is very easy for the PCM. How can we calculate this signals to quantization noise ratio? We have already calculated this NQ. That is the quantization noise, which is nothing but del square by 12. So this we have already calculated, the quantization noise del square by 12. And we know the delta is the step size, which is given as twice MP by L. This in the previous slide we have seen. And then hence NQ, this quantization noise we can represent in terms of the MP, which is given as 4 MP square, just by putting the value of delta from this to NQ. So NQ is given as 4 MP square by 12 L square. These are 12, so we can write it as MP square by 3L square. So this is another expression of the NQ. The meaning of both remains same. Either you remember it as a delta square by 12, or you remember it as MP square by 3L square, or you can also replace this by 2 to the power m. So you'll be having the third expression of the NQ. So we have the expression of NQ. Now, let us see how can we calculate the signals to the signal noise. So at the receiver end, because we want to calculate the signals to quantization noise at the receiver output. So the reconstructed signals at the receiver output, we can write it as MT, that is our master signal, plus the quantization noise. Because we know that the reconstructed signal will be on the output after encoding the output of the quantizer itself. So the noise what is arising, that is only because of the quantizer. So the reconstructed signals we can write it as MT, which is our desired signal, and the quantization noise. So if you consider these signals, then our signal power is where? Signal power is associated with this massive signal MT. So if you are able to calculate the mean square value of this MT, which is given as m bar square t, that will give us the signal power. So in signal power we have calculated m bar square t, and the noise power is nothing but 3 MP square by 3L square, which is given over here. So we can directly calculate the signal noise ratio, which is given as 3L square m bar square t by MP square. But this equation is valid for the uniform quantization. So because NQ what we have calculated in the previous slide only for the uniform quantizer. So S naught by N naught 3L square M by square T by MP square, that is for the case of uniform quantization. But it is more in some book you will find that if you use the Mueller comparator, okay, this is so specifically for the Mueller comparator, I'm not going to derive this because derivation is little bit lengthy and you are not required to know the all those lengthy steps. But I request you all that you should remember at least the expressions, that is the what we get for the sinus ratio. The sinus ratio for the Mueller comparator is given as 3L square by ln 1 plus 2, where mu is the parameters. So we all know that 255 we used to take for the practical applications. So 3L square by ln 1 plus 2 whole square. And these equations we get once this mu square square by n by square. So you should remember both the expressions, right? That is 3L square m by square T by MP square for uniform quantization, specifically for the L. Formula, and for L you may not get the equation. So that's why I'm getting only for the Mueller. S naught by N naught, it is given as L square by L plus mu whole square. Now both the equations you can see here it is written as 3L square. Here also it is written as 3L square. So L square is here, L square is here. So here these two factors are different. So we can write this single mass ratio as C L square, and L is nothing but 2 to the power m. So we can write it as 2 to the power m. But the value of the C is different for the uniform quantization and for the Mueller comparator, so which we have written it over here. That is the value of C. So single mass ratio you can also remember in one expression, which is given as C to the power m, where m is the number of bits to represent each quantization segment. And C, that is the constant, which is given as 3MP square, 3m bar square T by MP square, equal to the uniform quantization. That L square is nothing but 2 to the power m, and rest of the part is nothing but the C. So C here I have written over here, that is nothing but 3m bar square T divided by MP square. So this is for the uniform quantization. And if you compare with the non-Mueller comparator, then except this L square, the term is 3 by ln 1 plus mu whole square, which is nothing but the C itself. Okay? In place of L square, here it is written as 2 to the power m. So the value of this C, we need to consider it as 3 by ln 1 plus mu whole square if we use the Mueller comparator. Now, so this is the case once we do not represent the signal mass ratio in dB. But if you want to represent this signal mass ratio in dB, which is our usual practice to represent it into the dB, then we simply take the 10 log of that signal mass ratio. So it means that if you take the 10 log of this C to the power 2m, then we can then that expressions we can directly use either for the uniform quantizer or for the non-uniform quantizer. Only the difference that for uniform quantizer you need to choose the value of C by this, and for the Mueller compression techniques you need to choose the value of C. Is okay. That is 3 upon ln 1 plus 1 whole square. So let us put the value of signal mass ratio, which is given as C to the power 2m. So signal mass ratio in dB, we can represent it by 10 log of 10 signal mass ratio. 10 log of 10 signal mass ratio is given as C to the power 2m, which we can write it as 10 log of 10C plus 2m, 10 log of 2. 10 log of 2, the value of log 10, log 2, base 10, is nothing but 3010. If that 3010 gets multiplied by 2, and one more thing, here it will be the factor of 10. That is 2 into 10. 10. Okay. 10 will also get multiplied. So 10 into 2, that is 20 and log of 10. So the value of log 2 is nothing but 0.3010. Once it multiplied by 2, it becomes 0.6020. Once you multiply it by 10, it will come out to be 6. So it is 6 into n. So this is this factor. And this 10 log C, we have represented by another factor which is given as alpha, where alpha is nothing but 10 log of 10C. So this is a very simple expression which is represented into the dB for the case of calculation of the signal mass ratio in the BCM. Here, the number of bits required to represent each level, all of you are knowing. One aim is to calculate this alpha. How can we calculate alpha? Alpha we can calculate by taking 10 log of C. And how can we calculate the value of C? That from the previous slide, we need to choose the value of C for this quantizations. And we need to choose the value of C by this, that is 3 upon 1 plus whole square for the Euler compression technique. Okay. Now, these equations we can further simplify if it is the special case of sinusoidal signal. This is most frequently used. Yes. Because most frequently used in the objective paper. Most frequently asked. That is, if you take the if our message signal M is nothing but the sinusoidal signal, then for the case of uniform combination, what is the value of signal to noise ratio? So, since we have assumed that our message signal is sinusoidal signal, it means that our message signal is MP sin omega t, that is a sinusoidal signal. So here you can see for the uniform quantizations, to calculate this alpha, we need to calculate this C, and to calculate this C, we need to calculate the mean square value of that signal. Since we know that the mean square value of the sinusoidal signal is MP square by 2, so we can directly calculate the value of C, that is for the uniform quantization, which is given as 3m bar square t by MP square. And if you put the value of m bar square t to MP square by 2, you get 3 by 2 MP square by MP square and MP square will cancel out, and it will come out to 3 by 2, which is nothing but the 1.5. So we can directly calculate this alpha. Alpha is nothing but 10 log C, and we have calculated the value of C as 1.5. So 10 log of 10, 3 by 2. And we know that which is given as 10 log of 3 minus 10 log of 2. And we know that the value of log 3 is 0.771, 0.4771, and minus log value of log 2 is 0.3001, 0.3010. So if we subtract 0.4771 minus 0.301, it will come out to 0.176 like that. So if you multiply this 0.176 by 10, it will come out 1.76, which we can write it as 1.8. So this is the value of alpha we are getting, that is 1.8. Hence, signal to noise ratio in more simpler form, specifically for the case of sinusoidal signal. This you must have to remember, sinusoidal signals, and this equation is very important. Somebody used to ask in the Viva examination also, that is the Viva examination also, that suppose we use the PCM system, which use the 3 number of bits. Okay, then what will be the signal to noise ratio for the sinusoidal signals? If our message signal is sinusoidal, then you need to simply put the value of 3 bits in this in place of m. It will be 6 3 18, 18 plus 8, 19.8. So just only you can calculate, specifically for the case of sinusoidal signals. For the rest of the other signals, you have to calculate using this formula as not in dB, which is given by alpha plus 6m. So there, the second term 6m, the calculation of this will be very simple. You can calculate it easily, but the calculation of alpha, you need to actually remember these two expressions, specifically for the uniform quantizations, and in the case of compressed case, specifically for the case of Mueller, you can use this. You can calculate the signal to noise ratio. Now, you can obtain the signal to noise ratio, and you can calculate the signal to noise ratio. So, moving in the similar way, let us solve one or two problems, then we will switch to the next topic. That is, our question is, the signal having the bandwidth. We have a signal which is having the bandwidth of 3.5 kHz. That is, the maximum frequency of the message signals what we are taking, that is having the FM. FM is having the 3.5 kHz. Is sampled, quantized, and coded by a PCM system. Okay. The coded signal is then transmitted over the transmission channel, okay, of supporting a transmission rate of 50 kilobits per second. That is the transmission rate R. The value of R is given as 50 kilobits per second. Okay. Determine the maximum signal to noise ratio. How can we determine the maximum signal to noise ratio? And then that can be obtained from this system. Whereas the two another parameters are given, that is the input signal has the peak to peak value of 4 volt, and the RMS value of that one is given as 0.2 volt. That is the value of m bar square t. The message signal is given as RMS value. Sorry, root mean square value is given as 0.2. So the m bar square t we can calculate as 0.2 whole square. That will come to 2.04. And here you can see peak to peak. Peak to peak value is given as 4 volt. MP, the peak value of the message signal will be 2 volt. So these two parameters are also given for the message signal. So for the message signal specifically, the peak value is given as 2 volt, and the RMS value is given as 0.2 volt, and the maximum frequency of that message signal is given as 3.5. And if that signal is sampled, quantized, and then it is transmitted over the PCM signals whose transmission rate is 50 kilobits per second, then we need to calculate the maximum signals to noise ratio for the PCM system and receiving it. So to calculate first, we need to calculate the NQ, that is the quantization size, which is given as del square by 12. So delta is given as twice MP by twice MP is given as 2 volt, twice into 2 divided by L, which is given out to be 4 by L. Now, next case, the R, that is the transmission rate, is given as 15 to 10 bits per second. And FM, you can see it is given as 3.5 kilohertz. I told you. So during the sampling, our sampling theorem must be satisfied. So this sampling frequency is given as twice FM. So from this, FM is known as 3.5. So we can calculate the sampling frequency, which is coming out to be 72 hertz. Now, since we know the bandwidth property, okay, the transmission bandwidth property of the PCM, that is our R is greater than equals to MFM. Sorry, MFM, not MFS. MFM. So R should be greater than equals to MFM. Sorry. It is MFM or MFS? No, it's okay. It's okay. R equals to MFS, or it is slightly greater than equals to MFM. I was confused with the bandwidth. This way is the R, so R is greater than MFS. Right? R is greater than MFS. M is what? M is the number of bits to represent each quantization level. From there, we can calculate this value of M. R is known 15 to 10 power 3, and FS is known 7 into 10 power 3. From there, we can calculate the M. Why we are calculating this M? Because once we are able to calculate M, we can calculate L, which is universal to the power M. So once we are able to calculate L, we can calculate this delta. And once we are able to calculate this delta, we can calculate the quantization bias. Because of that only we are calculating M over here. So since R is greater than equal to FS, so 15 to 10 power 3 is greater than equal to M into 7 into 10 power 3. So from here we can calculate the value of M, which is coming out to be definitely this inverting will change. M will be less than equal to 50 by 7. Which means that it is less than equal to, it should be less than equal to 7.118, which we need to take the equations. Okay, we need we just solve it up to the representation integer, because if we take it as 7.14 in place of 7.17, then we may not be able to cover both quantization steps. It is better that you just take next higher integers. So that is 8 bits. Okay. So from there we can calculate L, which is to the power M. M is calculated as 8 bits, which is given out to be 256. And delta is given as 4 by L, that is 4 by 256, which is given as 0.156254. Now NQ, the quantization noise, which is delta square by 12, which will come out just by putting the value of delta 15625, we can calculate the NQ, which is coming out to be 2.03 and then mean square value. How can we calculate? Because our aim is to ultimate aim is to calculate the signal to noise ratio itself. To calculate the signal to noise ratio, we have calculated. Because signal power is nothing but the mean square value, which is nothing but the 0.2 whole square, because RMS value is given, that is 0.04. And then from here we can calculate the signal to noise ratio 0.04 divided by 2.03 to 10 power, which is coming out to be this. R the signal to noise ratio, if you calculate it into the dB, that is the 10 log of this parameter, then it will come out to 32.98. So this is just by using the basic concept of the PCM, we have calculated the signal to noise ratio. Whereas you can also use the previous expressions what we have used for the calculation of the signal to noise ratio. That is, you take the value of CDS and then calculate the value of alpha by 10 log of 10C, and then M you need to calculate in the similar way, which will come out to be 8. And that then by using this expression also you can calculate the signal to noise ratio. It is up to you. But either you go to your basic concept what we have studied, that how can we calculate the signal to noise ratio. Following that, you can calculate the signal to noise ratio, or you need to remember all the basic calculate the signal to noise ratio. Now, proceed the next problem, which we are a very simple one, and considering your these type of examinations. That is, given an audio signal consisting of a sinusoidal tones, like this. You can see sinusoidal tones, and this audio signals, it means that our message signal is nothing but the sinusoidal signals, XT. So we need to determine the signal to noise ratio in dB. Then it is quantized using 10 bit. As I told you that if it is sinusoidal signals, then the last simplified expressions what we have derived that we can easily use it. To calculate the signal to noise ratio, we need to take 1.8 plus 6m. So we need to know over here what is the value of m, which is given over here. That is m equals to 10 bits. This m equals to 10 bits, and this is the sinusoidal signals. So that does not matter what is the amplitude of that sinusoidal signal, what is the frequency of that sinusoidal signal, it does not matter. So as the signal to noise ratio in dB 1.8 plus 6m, m is 10, so 1.8 plus 60, 61.8. Similarly, how many bits of the quantizations are needed? That is the second part. We achieve the signal to noise ratio of at least 40 dB. In the reverse way also you can calculate. That is the signal to noise ratio is given over here as 40 dB. So how much number of bits quantization, how many number of bits are required to achieve this 40 dB of signal to noise ratio, specifically for this sinusoidal. So it will come out to be 6 m equals to 40 minus 1.8, that is 38.2. M will come out to be 38.2 divided by 6, which is coming out to be 6.36. So as I told you, that we need to take the next higher integer for a calculation of the bit, because it cannot be 6.36, that it may be 6 or it may be 7, so 7, so that it can cover the whole quantization step. 6.36, it is coming to 7 bit. We need to choose it. So this is about the quantization. If you consider the PCM block diagram, then I want to tell you that what are the things we have already covered. In the PCM block diagram, the basic sampling process, the basic sampling types, sampling theorem, pass, low pass, band pass, all those we have considered. All those we have already studied. Now, second block is the quantization. We have seen that quantization is of two types: uniform quantizations, non-uniform quantization. Again, uniform quantization is divided into a mid-trade and mid-rise type, and then we have studied all these, and also we have studied the non-uniform quantizations, and then the last topic what is written in your syllabus, that is the calculation of the analysis of the noise in the PCM system. That also we have studied. That is the analysis of the noise. For that, we have calculated the quantization noise, we have calculated the signal to noise ratio, and in fact, we have solved the numerical problems also based on those. Now, the third block. Now, coming to the third block of the PCM, as I have drawn, that is, this one is the sampler. Second block is the quantizer, and third block of the PCM are encoder. Now we are going to discuss about the encoder. That is, once the quantizer generates the bit in the form of 0, 1, 0, 1, 0, 1 like that, or 0, 0, 0, 1 like that. This one is the binary representation of the each quantization state. So until and unless we do not represent it into the electrical form, we cannot transmit this signal. So there are numbers of ways by which we can represent the binary number into the electrical signal. That coding is called as line coding. Now we are going to study the last block, that is called as encoder. And encoder is simply perform the line coding technique. So any line coding technique can be used in the encoder, but one is having certain advantage over that. What is the line encoding? Line coding is nothing but the electrical form of the representation, and it is its as line encoding. And this encoder does the job of same. That is, this quantization, this binary digit used to represent into the line encoding form. Line coding form that is used to represent into the electrical form. So our next topic is that this is a line codes on the binary signals. Okay. As you can see, I've written the output of a PCM or multiplexer is coded into the electrical pulses or waveform for the purpose of transmission over the channel, because you cannot transmit 101010 until unless we do not represent it into the electrical pulses. So to fill that purpose, this process is called as line coding. We need to represent this 1010 into the electrical pulse. It is also called as transmission coding. The question arises that what are the various properties once we represent this, say 1010 1110 any sequence of the bits, if we represent into the electrical pulses, what are the desirable property that line coding technique should satisfy. In that, there are 6 desirable properties that are written. Those desirable properties should be satisfied by the line coding techniques. Like first, transmission bandwidth. As I told you, the transmission bandwidth we prefer to have as small as possible. So we need to choose, because there are not there is not like that that only one line coding technique is available. Whether we will study 6 or 7 or 8 number of line coding techniques. Then the question arises that which line coding technique we need to choose for the transmissions. Then answer of that one is this one, that those line coding techniques which will satisfy most of the desirable properties. That line coding is better, and we can choose the line coding technique. Okay. Then that the first desirable property what the line coding technique should satisfy is the transmission bandwidth. That is, the transmission bandwidth should be as small as possible. Second, power efficiency. The transmission power efficiency should be as the transmitted power should be as low as possible. Or we can say that the transmitted power efficiency should be as high as possible. So for that, we can say that the transmitted power should be as small as possible. That is, to transmit that code signals to reach from one distance to another distance, we should require the less transmission power. Power transmission for that line coding technique should be as small as possible. Next one is the error detection and correction capability. So that code should have the self capability to detect the error and correct the error. This is the third desirable property of the line coding. And fourth one is the favorable power spectral density. Okay. Like suppose if you have the power spectral density like this, then this power spectral density consists the large power near the omega equals to 0 axis. And another power spectral density is given by this, which has very small power near omega equals to 0 axis. And at the same time, in some line coding, we have the impulses at omega equals to 0. If you have the impulse at omega equals to 0, it means that line coding consists the DC term. Whereas if you have this type of spectrum, and at the same time, this power spectral density has the large value nearby the omega equals to 0 frequency, which is not preferable because this actually corresponds to the high value of the DC level. Omega equals to 0, suppose some impulse is present, or even though some impulse is not present, but the power spectral density is having the large value, we can say that it is having some DC component. So to transmit that DC component with that line coding technique is not preferable, because as I told you, that in the PCM system, here is the sampler, here is the quantizer, here is the encoder. And then after encoding, we transmit it through the channel. And then in the channel, we use the regenerative repeater. Numbers of regenerative repeaters we used to use. Okay? And in all these regenerative repeaters, numbers of transformers and coils are used. So and that works for the AC signals. If we transmit, if some DC component is also associated with that code, then it will start winding to that of the coils of the transformer. So it simply loses the power and it actually heat up that transformer. So it is not actually desirable. So we should have the favorable power spectral density. Like if we ask you that which power spectral density is favorable between these two, then suppose in one power spectral density we have this. Suppose second one we have this, third one we have this. Then you can say that first we would prefer this, because neither it has an impulse, neither it is having some components at nearby omega equals to 0. Then we will prefer to this, because although it is having some components at the nearby omega equals to 0, but it does not have any impulse. But we cannot prefer this, because it is having the impulse and at the same time having the potent DC term. So fifth desirable property is adequate timing content. Adequate timing content means it should be possible to extract the timing information from the pulse what we used to send using the line coding. So that we need to choose that coding technique only where we can extract the timing information from that code. And sixth one is the transparency. Transparency. The data are so coded that for every password sequence of the data, the coded data is received faithfully. The code is transparent. So this transparency property should also be satisfied by the line coding. So these are the 6 properties which must be satisfied by the line coding techniques, like the transmission bandwidth should be low, power efficiency, transmission power should be low, it should have the error detection and corrections capability, it should have the favorable power spectral density, as I told you, and it should have the aggregate timing content and the transparency. Now, then question arises, then what are the various types of line coding techniques? Until unless we don't know about what are the various types of line coding techniques, how can we differentiate and how can we obtain the basic properties that which one is having the better performances another? So for that, there are total, you can see 7 numbers of line coding techniques are there. Like, so now I want to let you know that if we have the binary numbers, like suppose 0, 1, 1, 0, 0, 1, 0, 1, then how this binary number can be represented into the electrical form? That is called as line coding. So if you are able to represent this binary number into the electrical form with a certain rules, then we can say that is nothing but line coding techniques. But at the same time, for that line coding techniques, all these 6 properties should be satisfied. But generally we see that this favorable power spectral density is very much constant, that it should be satisfied. And if it is satisfying, then other are actually is not, although it is not dependent upon the power spectral density, but there are also may get satisfied for that particular. So here we have taken an example, like say 0, 1, 1, 0, 0, 1, 0, 1. Then the first technique of representation of line coding is called as unipolar not returns to 0. This NRZ means not return to 0. Okay. So in some book you will find that such type of representation is called as unipolar not returns to 0, or simply it is called as on-off signaling. On-off signaling. So what is the basic way by which we used to represent the on-off signaling or unipolar NRZ line coding technique? That is, if there is 0, we simply represent it by the 0 volt. If there is 1, we simply represent it by plus a volt or plus b volt. So here you can see 0 is represented by 0 volt and 1 is represented by plus b volt. Similarly, this one is represented by another b volt, another b0 we have, so it is represented by 0 volt, another 0 we have, so it is represented by 0 volt, 1 we have, it is represented by plus b volt, similarly 0, 0, 1, 1. But if we represent this binary number by this line coding technique, which is called on-off signaling or unipolar NRZ, then if you calculate the DC term, then you will find some DC term over here lying somewhere. You will find that some DC component is lying somewhere over here, because the area under this is 0, but some area we will get over here. So this is not preferable. That is, it will have some DC component which will create the problem in the regenerative repeater. And at the same time, if we draw the power spectral density, which we have already studied, that how can we draw the power spectral density? Power spectral density is nothing but the mod of PF whole square by TS. Okay, so PF is nothing but the Fourier transform of this, and then square of that and divided by the symbol durations. That is, this is TS. So you can draw, you can obtain the power spectral density. You might have already studied in your class. So you can draw the power spectral density, and you will find that the power spectral density, I'm not going to discuss after. You will find that power spectral density is coming like this. You can see, because of this, the presence of this DC term, because DC term you can also calculate just by calculating 1 by T 0 to T F dt. From there also you can calculate the DC term and you will find non-zero value of the DC term. So because of the presence of the DC term, you can see at omega equals to 0, this arrow type of symbol is written over here. It simply says that one impulse function is present at omega equals to 0. And at the same time, this is actually symmetrical. This is symmetrical about but have not shown in the negative axis thing. So you will find that nearby f equals to 0, this power spectrum value is large. So this is actually not preferable, as this is having the DC terms and having the large value of the power spectrum density. Okay. Now, coming to the second type of representations, which is called as polar not returns to 0 or simply not returns to 0 signaling. Either we call it as polar not returns to 0 or we simply call it as non-returns to 0 signaling. So in this method, if there is a 0, we simply represent it as minus V volt or minus A volt. And if there is 1, we simply represent it as 1 volt. So you can see if this is 0, so it is represented by 0. Bipolar, because it is non-returns to 0, because no data is returning to the 0. Okay. So it means that 0 is represented by minus A volt and 1 is represented by plus A volt. Similarly, another 1 is represented by 1 volt. Another bit is 0, so it is represented by minus B volt, and so on. And if you obtain the power spectral density, you will find that the power spectral density for this representations, polar NRZ, which is not returns to 0 signaling, is given by this one. So here you can see there is no impulse function. So you cannot say that if there is no impulse function, it does not mean that it will not have any DC component. Why? Why you cannot say that if there is no DC signals, then it will not have any DC component? Because if you look to the data, then the number of ones, how many number of ones are there? 1, 2, 3, 4. How many number of zeros are there? 1, 2, 3, 4. Number of ones and number of zeros, we have considered it as equal. That is equal probable. So if the numbers of zeros and numbers of ones are equal, then in that case, what will happen? The numbers of pulses what is going to the negative side will be same to that of the number of pulses what are going to the positive side. And effective area, if you consider, then this negative, this positive will cancel out this positive, this negative will cancel out this negative, this positive will cancel out negative, this positive will cancel out, and ultimately DC cutoff will fall for this special case. It will fall somewhere in the time axis. Because of that, since this one is tram for this special case, that's why that impulse function is not shown over here. But if the occurrence of 1 and 0 are unequal, then definitely it will have certain value of the DC component. And at the same time, it has the large value of the power spectrum density near omega equals to 0. Although it is suffering with the same problem to that of the on-off signal encoding techniques, but relatively it has the lesser DC terms and relatively it has the lesser power spectral density value near omega equals to 0. Now coming to the third property, which is given as third actually line coding technique, which is given as unipolar returns to 0 or returns to 0 signaling. Simply, it is called as returns to some book. You will find simply the returns to 0 signaling, and in some book you will find this name also, unipolar returns to 0. That's why I have written both the names. You should not get confused. Okay. Now, so how do we represent in this unipolar returns to 0 or returns to 0 signaling? Unipolar returns to 0 or returns to 0 signaling means 0 is represented by 0 volt. Whereas if there is 1 in the data, then the whole one period, that is this period, half of that is represented by plus V volt and the next half is represented by 0 volt. This is called as returns to 0 signaling technique. Like 0 is represented by 0 only, but if you have the 1, then half of that period of the 1, bit period of the 1 is represented by plus a volt, and next half of that bit is represented by 0. So the representations from here to here is nothing but for 1. That is, if there is a 1, then half bit duration is represented by plus V volt, and the next half duration is represented by 0 volt. Similarly, and next data is 1 also. So the first half bit duration is represented by plus V volt, and the next bit duration is represented by 0 volt. And if there is a 0, then whole bit duration is represented by 0 volt, 0 volt. And if there is 1, then half bit duration is represented by 1. The next half bit duration is represented by 0 volt. So if you obtain the power spectral density over here, then you can find that there is no area which is going to the negative voltage. That's why it will have certain DC term. That's why you can also see one DC one impulse is appearing over here. One impulse is appearing over here. And at the same time, it also has large or spectral density near omega equals to 0. Now, coming to the fourth one, that is called as bipolar signaling. Bipolar signaling. In bipolar signaling, what we do, that is if there is 0, then that 0 is represented by 0 volt. If there is 1, then alternatively it is represented by plus V and minus V volt. Right? If first bit is 0, then it is represented by 0 volt. Whenever there is a 0, it is represented by 0 volt. The first one is, after that first one appears, then it is represented by plus V volt. Then in the next, once the next one is appeared, it is represented by minus V volt. Minus V volt. Then 0 is represented by 0 volt. 0 is represented by 0 volt. And then next one is appeared. That's why it is represented by plus V volt, because we have already represented the previous one by the minus V volt. Now next, when the next one will appear, it will again be represented by. So doing this, what happens? Since we are representing this 0 by 0 volt and 1 by plus minus, then what happens? The DC terms become 0. But ultimately, the same problem appears over here also, that if the number of ones and zeros are equal, then the overall DC term will be 0. Otherwise, if it is unequal, suppose the next bit would have been 1, then that would have been represented by here also. And then because of this, there is a small DC term may present at the output. But that DC term is nothing but small related to the other cases what we have studied, especially for this case and this case. And it is very much comparable with the second case. Now coming to the fourth one, this is called as bipolar returns to 0. Now if you look to the previous one, it is simply called as bipolar signaling. And next one is called as bipolar returns to 0, or another name is also there, which is called as alternate mark inversion. That is called as AMI coding technique. In AMI coding technique, what we do, that is whenever there is a 0, it is represented by 0 volt. Whenever there is 1, it is represented by half period of that one is represented by plus V volt and plus V volt and 0 volt. And when the next one appears, half period of that one is represented by minus V volt and 0 volt. So you can see the 0 is represented by 0 volt, and the next one is represented by half of that one is represented by plus 1 volt and 0 volt. And next, once the next one appears, half of that one is represented by minus V volt and the 0 volt. Similarly, once the next one appears, half of that one is represented by plus V volt or plus A volt, whatever you think. And the next one is represented by 0 volt. So doing that, what happens? It will have, again, it will have certain value of the DC term, but relatively, if you compare, even if you compare with this previous one, then it will have the small DC value as compared to the previous one. Why? Because this area ultimately becomes half that of the previous case, even if one extra bit will appear. So because of that, and at the same time, the bipolar returns to 0. If you draw the power spectral density, it will look like this. And as I told you, that it is having very small value of that power spectral density near omega equals to 0. It is having very small value of the power spectral density near omega equals to 0. And at the same time, you can see in this special case, since the number of ones and zeros are equal, that's why no DC term is shown over here. But if some odd number of ones will be there, then definitely some DC term will be there, but the value of that DC term will be very small. So this one is having the small DC term, we can say, a negligible DC term, we can say, and at the same time, it is having the favorable power spectral density. Now coming to the sixth one is the differential encoding technique. So this is another type of line coding techniques. That is where it is used. How can we represent it, the differential coding techniques? That is, a transition is happened once 0 will appear, and no transition is happened once the 1 is appeared. That's why I have written over here. That is, suppose if we consider the just previous to that this 0 bit, if you consider the reference bit, which is say as a 1, then since the next bit is coming out to be 0, so from 1 this transition occurs. Next bit is 1, no transition occurs, no transition occurs. Whenever there is a 0, transition occurs. So after this 0, another 0 is appearing, so again the transition occurs. If the next one is 1, so no transition occurs. Next one is 0, so transition occur. Next one is 1, so no transition. So this type of encoding technique is called as differential encoding, but definitely this will also have some certain DC. Now, the most important and most frequently used is the last one, which is as split phase, and you will see that it is having 0 DC level. It does not mean, it does not matter that whether the zeros and ones are equally likely, equally means it occurs equally, or it does not occur equally. It does not matter. But at the all time it will have 0 DC value, and at the same time it will have the favorable PST. Because if you look to the PST, I will come to this graph. But if you look to the PST, there is no DC term, right? And it is having the very low value of the power spectral density, or negligible, near about 0 power spectral density. VST nearby the omega equals to 0. So it is satisfying almost both the desirable property. So how the question arises, how can we represent this? This split phase coding technique is also called as Manchester coding. It is also called as Manchester coding. So what happens here? To make the DC term, what we try to do, we try to nullify this DC term in each bit. Like suppose 0. So 0 is represented by half period. Half period is represented by minus V volt, and next half period is represented by plus V volt. If you represent, like suppose 0 bit duration is from here to here, and if there is 0, so 0 is represented by half bit duration is represented by minus V volt, and next half bit duration is represented by plus V volt. So ultimately what happens? Ultimately this area gets cancelled out, and we get the DC term 0 per each bit. So since we get the DC value 0 per each bit, so it does not matter whether the number of ones are more or whether the number of zeros are more. Our DC term will always be 0 in the Manchester code. And if there is a 1, then what happens? First, in the first half, we represent it by minus V volt. In the next half of the bit, we represent it by the minus V volt. So this is how this is called as Manchester coding. If there is 0, you can see 0 is represented by minus B and plus B. Next bit is 1, so it is represented by plus B and minus B. Next bit is 1, so it is again represented by plus B and minus B. Next bit is 0, so it is represented by minus B. So this is the best line coding technique, which does not have any DC component. At the same time, it has the favorable power spectrum test. So this is all about the DCM. In the next class, I will start discussions from the differential pulse code models. For time being, I thanks to all of you. And meanwhile, if you have any questions, you can ask me. Otherwise, we can start our discussion. Please. Anyone underscore ECE underscore ECS. All these will be in this later. Underscore 2021. I hope that all of you have noted down. BIT is BIT are taken from the Boolean Institute of Technology. Underscore ECE underscore ECS, Digital Communication System, ECS underscore 2021. So please note down this password, because I'm going to share this PPT from this by using this password. For time being, thank you.